3, does it apply to Mrs. Mokwela? Or do you think it could potentially exclude her because she might be suitably qualified? How do I read it? How do you suggest I read it?
So we have agreed, Council, that she is suitably qualified.
So therefore, the remainder of 25.3 doesn't apply to her.
She's suitably qualified and experienced. The appointment of persons not suitably qualified and or experienced as a form of gratification.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Advocate Johnson. For my edification, 25.3, does it apply to Mrs. Mokwela? Or do you think it could potentially exclude her because she might be suitably qualified? How do I read it? How do you suggest I read it?
So we have agreed, Council, that she is suitably qualified.
So therefore, the remainder of 25.3 doesn't apply to her.
She's suitably qualified and experienced. The appointment of persons not suitably qualified and or experienced as a form of gratification for that doesn't exclude that part of why she was appointed, even though she's suitably qualified. Yes.
So then she is not out of the woods yet, because if you are to concede that she could potentially be suitably qualified and experienced, her appointment in and of itself is gratification for her collusion later in the looting of state funds.
That is correct, yes.
What in the investigation leads you to believe that in the future she will collude in the looting of state funds? Something in that investigation must have pointed you out to this. What could it potentially be?
So the information that we had at the time was that in the process, she would have been part of a process where monies would have been taken from the secret funds in order to purchase properties, and that her placement there would have assisted that process. That was the contention or the allegation.
As a mechatronics, whatever.
No,
I'm trying to understand. I hear what you are saying is restating what is contained in 25.3. You're not giving me a basis for that conclusion. You're already concluding that she will be involved by virtue of occupying that position. And I want to understand what in the investigation leads you, by you I mean IDEC, to conclude that you give her that job, she's in the Secret Service Fund, and therefore she will be looting state funds to pay. She'll be colluding, I correct myself, I don't know with who with, but to loot state funds and purchase properties. What in those files should we look out for to support the conclusion that you draw, the fear that you express at 25.3?
I'll just have to be given an opportunity to go back and to look into the evidence.
No, you must have had it. For you to submit on oath, you confirmed the correctness of this statement when we started. Correct. So you must have an idea, and I suggest that perhaps you start sharing it with us. Might not be firmed up. When you return, you will give us the full now facts, chapter and verse. But for now, when you wrote 25.3 in relation specifically to Mrs. Mokwela, on what basis did you conclude that she was going to collude in the looting of state funds with whomsoever?
Commissioners, I ask for a moment.
Yes, please.
Are you thinking of a specific document, perhaps?
I'm just perusing. Sorry, Commissioners.
I'm not rushing you, but.
Yes, I'm trying to peruse through the chart sheet to at least refresh my memory.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay.
I think the commissioners were giving you an opportunity. Have you located what you're looking for?
It triggers. It triggers the recollection, and I'm going to hold you to. I'll have to come back with the chapter and verse.
Okay.
I recall that when it came to where she was positioned in TSS, TSS is a covert environment with a very big budget, and the allegation was that if monies were needed, as an example for the purchase of properties, monies would be able to come out of there. And that if she was asked, because of disappointment, she would have felt the need to act. That was the projection, and that was the understanding of where.
Sorry, asked to do what exactly?
Sorry. If monies are required or needed, the technical support services to which she would have been appointed has a very big budget. It is a covert environment. And I think the manner, and I'm giving you the explanation as I understand it, the manner in which funds are dealt with are not as open source as everything else. And so should the need arise for funds to be procured, that would be the environment from which funds could be accessed, for example, for the purchase of properties. That is how I recall.
Unlawfully.
That is correct.
So she would violate her duty of good faith to her employer. She would breach her contract of employment.
I think the contention, Commissioner Khumalo, if I recall correctly, was because the monies are in that environment, she could be approached to make those monies available. I don't know what would be presented to her for her to make those monies available, but that is where the funds are for her to make available.
But if she's doing that as part of her job, how does that rise to gratification and unlawful conduct? Because what you are saying, that would apply to any person who occupies that role.
Correct.
If they are required to provide money, provided that they are complying with the prescripts and they are doing that correctly, that's not a criminal offense.
No, it
They are
isn't.
simply doing their job.
Yes. If she was approached for access of the TSS funds, knowing that whatever that motivation was, she should not approve that funding.
Yes, but how do you leap to the conclusion that she would loot state funds? Because that's what your 25.3 says. If she's approving a request and she's doing it in accordance with the prescripts, there's nothing wrong with that.
Not if she's doing it in accordance with the prescripts.
So what is the basis of your assumption that she would have done it in an unlawful manner?
That she would have been approached to make monies available under circumstances where she would not have made them available.
But how do you know that?
That was because of that environment, and because of the fact that from previous matters, not in IDEC, that is how funds were looted, out of accounts where the funds are within a covert environment. So motivations would be put in for access of that money.
You are being,
Without-
if I may come
sorry.
in, no. You are being grossly unfair to Mrs. Mokwela. Now you are attributing conduct of persons she has no knowledge of to her in the future, no how. And you are saying you accept that she may be required to access those funds in the course of execution of her job. But the impression you create here at this 25.3 is that she would do so to loot. So that apology that I think you sought to extend to her, you might as well take it back. You are seriously impugning her credibility, and we are trying to find the basis on which you say she was going to loot.
I hear you. That is not the intention. I'm trying to give an example of how I find that space. And,
You see,
sorry,
no, you may continue if you're not
no,
done.
I think it is also wholly unfair. There's no intention to impede on her dignity. I am merely expressing or amplifying on the question. If that is how it comes out, Council, really, it is unfortunate that you think that I would, in giving an explanation, that I am intentionally impeding on her reputation and her credibility. I do apologize if that is how it comes out, but and to say that my apology, in fairness, Commissioners, that I made earlier, I will not willy-nilly make an apology. The Commissioners did not drag an apology out of me. I made that apology freely, and I think it should be taken from where it came. It did come freely.
You see, if there were substance in what you are saying, it would apply across the board. That is to anybody appointed to that position.
Correct.
That must be correct.
Yes.
Yeah, because you have no basis to think that she is different, and that therefore this would apply only to her. So anybody,
In that position.
if what you say is logical, anybody would also be susceptible to this impropriety.
I accept that, Chair.
Thank you.
Advocate Johnson, in June 2025, this is exactly the charge that was presented, even in the draft charge sheet to justify Ms. Mokwela's arrest. It's exactly this. So she has gone through all of this over a period of a year. It's not new that for the first time today you are making this allegation. The memos, the draft charge sheet, and all the documents, this was exactly the issue. And I say this for my part, I have no sympathy for people who loot state funds. And if there are people, whether they are generals or not, who are involved in the looting of the secret account or whatever it is, I have zero sympathy for them. But this case, as Commissioner Baloyi said yesterday, is a serious abuse of power by IDEC to target a civilian. And that's what I have a problem with. My sympathy for her is a bit different to the generals, because if they did what they did, the law must take its course. But we must draw the line where organs that are supposed to protect the public and, work for the benefit of the public are used in this manner to unfairly target civilians. That is just not right.
I understand, hence I made the apology earlier.
Yeah.
It does not detract from the fact that there is a case for which they have now made representations. Ms Mokwela
And
as well.
you said, it's not just the representations, there's also the review process. that
Exactly,
you referred to.
and yes, and so in the end, fairness and justice must prevail. So if we have made the wrong decision, then that decision will be corrected. And I'm saying that in terms of the appointment, I'm not retracting anything that I said
Okay.
at all.